Oops.
Hey, morning.
Morning. Okay, just another minute and then we'll get going. Still people coming in. All right, I think I'll just start up and then, then we'll see how many joins during that. All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope everybody can see my screen, and I will just jump onto the agenda. So for today, we will talk a lot about the DPP, the Digital Product Passport. So I will get us going with the details about it, just to set the mood of where we are and the current situation, a bit of a timeline to see where are we in terms of legislation, of course, and then just to get ready and why is it important to already start talking about it now. And then I have the pleasure to introduce Alexandra, who will join me for a conversation on their status, their process, where they are in this situation. So to kick us off, I will start by there we go. Talking a bit about the ESPR. So that is the Eco Design for Sustainable Products Regulation. Now, this is where the DPP stems from. The eco design requirements is going to go this time beyond like energy efficiency, but also, of course, touch upon all of this circular thinking and boost the circularity of products in general of the EU or in the EU. But we, of course, target and talk a lot about the textile industry because that's where we mostly are. So what the eco design will cover is, of course, something about durability, reusability, upgradability, recyclability, etc. That's something that is already there. I just realized I forgot to mention that, of course, you'll get the slides afterwards. I have done the slides quite wide in terms of information to ensure that we get a lot of information to you guys that you can save afterwards. So you don't have to write it all down or take screenshots or anything. You're also welcome to ask questions during, and I'll either reply right away or I will give the question to Alexandra afterwards. So just use the Q&A for that as well. Anyways, so the eco design requirements, of course, it will also look at the chemical, energy and resource efficiency, maybe also recycle content, at least what content is there in the products, and is it recyclable, and of course environmental impact. So the idea of the ESPR is then taken into the digital product passport to ensure that all of these requirements are actually able to be with the product or the product group. Now, as you can see, the priority is quite the high of textiles, which is why it's also important to, of course, talk about it today. Now, this is just to give a timeline of the ESPR. As you can see, the European Commission is already doing a lot of work and will be doing a lot of work during this year, and diving into the DPP a bit later, because that will, of course, come after all of the work that they're doing now. The idea is now that we have the framework of it, now the European Commission will go in and see with these delegated acts to see what will then be the specific requirements for the different industries that they are covering. One of the things that it's looking at is sort of two different requirements. There is this performance requirements, which, as mentioned, is all of the circular parameters, the circular requirements that will definitely be something which would be a part of the DPP. So it's something to do with durability of the garment, of the products, longevity of the products, of course, and the quality, the higher quality will, of course, also be a performance requirement. The other thing is the information requirement, which is also so important because that dives into the supply chains. Where do our products come from? What have they been through or on the way to the consumer, which means chemical-wise, etc. So looking into these information things, and this is also where the environmental impact is covered. Now it splits into these two different categories, the DPP system, which covers all products. So that's everything in the all products in the EU that is and are covered by the ESPR. So that is the how. That is the centralized system, the registry, the web portal, which the EU is preparing to be able to have. But the what is the more interesting thing, I think, because that's the DPP data. That's all of the data needed for the DPP to actually exist. And that one is product group specific. So that is the one where we will definitely see a differentiation between the different industries, the different product groups. And that is the delegated acts that will then they will decide what are the specific product groups requirements. So of course, the textile industry will probably have other requirements than the steel industry or the battery industry, etc. And the timelines will also therefore be a bit different. So when we dive in, this is the same timeline, but then diving into what specifically we have to look at in terms of the digital product passport is in the late 2025. It is expected that the delegated acts will then be finalized, maybe not all of them, but at least the first ones will, which means that thereafter an adoption period will start, and it is expected that mid 2027, the first products requirements will start to be applied. That's not necessary to say that that's the textile. The textile might come a bit later, but mid 27 is the first products that will be covered by it. So again, from the European Commission, we know that they have these different things that they say that this is what you need to do to get ready for the delegated acts for the textiles. One of the things is, of course, getting ready in terms of how will the digital product passport actually exist and be compliant with the requirements that is expected. It needs, of course, to be complete, and it needs to be authentic, reliable, and verified information, which means that documentation is, of course, needed to ensure that what you are saying, what you have in the DPP is also something that you can verify through documentation. It is also required from the European Commission that you have backups, and of course required that it is information that is actually able to get out to your dealers, your retailers, and in the end consumer, of course. So it has to be public information that you can give to all of your e-commerce channels, etc., that are actually able to then show to their consumers and customers. So wrapping a bit up in what I've said, because it is a lot of information and I do send this out, so please remember that. Wrapping up, we know that 2024 is being used there are so many implementation milestones in 2024, both for the EU, of course, to get ready, but also in terms of what we have to get ready for. It does, the DPP, it kind of lies in the name with the digital, it does have a very comprehensive digital source that it needs to have, and to be able to provide this life cycle information of the product that are created. So the next steps would be, first of all, for the EU and of course for the companies to get ready. The key components, as mentioned, are the three different areas. So it is supply chain, complete supply chain, or at least a lot of supply chain information needed for the digital product passport. It is environmental impact, which is really important as well to look into. How will we actually showcase the impact of our products? And of course, the circular practices. So how do we showcase, how do we validate and prove that we are taking into consideration circular practices in our products? And of course, documentation. So the opportunities and challenges, I would say, and I think a lot hopefully agrees, that the opportunities is, of course, that by working with this, getting ready for this, and being ready to showcase the DPP on products, on websites, that also means that it gives you a leverage in terms of your consumers. So getting ready for all of this means that you might actually have an advantage compared to your competitors. Of course, combined with that are the challenges that it is a very big ask, a very big need for digitalization. It is complex. All of the information is in many cases not something that we are used to collecting, or at least some of the information we're not used to. Some we are, but we need to figure out a way that we can data collect and manage this data in a responsible way to be able to showcase it in these DPPs. So I made this sort of short to-do list for now. There will probably be more to-do things, but one is, of course, to familiarize yourself with these DPP requirements by attending webinars, reading articles, etc., to familiarize yourself with what does it actually mean, and what will it mean for my company. Assess the current product portfolio. Which type of products do we have, and which requirements will we then expect for them to have in the DPP when we get there. Then, of course, investing in the digital infrastructure. Which sort of digital platforms do we have to assist us in all of that? Do we have any platforms that can help us with the environmental impact, the supply chain mapping, etc., so that we can collect all of this information and create it digitally to be able to deliver to the DPP? And in the end, I would never ever go this way without saying that it needs a trusted supply chain. You need suppliers that are able and willing to help in the process to ensure that the work becomes somewhat easier. Let's see what Alexandra says about that one as well. So the final thing is, of course, looking at why is it important to look at now? And I think I've already said it a couple of times that it's just really important because we, especially in the textile industry, we have quite a long period of time where we develop. Most of companies use approximately a year from idea to the product in the shops, which means that you are actually in a bit of a time trouble if you haven't already gotten started with collecting all of this information, or at least preparing to collect all of the information. Once the delegated acts are adopted, you only have 18 months to comply. So the timeline means that for textiles, we will have to be ready in 2026 so that we are able to give the information and deliver that for the DPP. So that is why. Now I will shut off my screen, stop sharing, and welcome Alexandra, who just needs to mute. So happy to have you. So I wanted to just start off by not me introducing you, but having you introduce yourself and your role.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Alexandra Rochette. I'm French, as you can hear, and I've been working in Denmark for 4 years now. And I'm currently the Chief Sustainability Officer at Bureau Christensen Collective. So managing 2 brands, Remain and Rochette.
Yeah, 2 brands. You are, yeah. And can just to dive in first of all, focusing a lot of this DPP. Now, I know that you have been through assessing it and finding out how to start. So if you can just talk a bit about where did you start? What was the first initial thoughts of getting started with this whole idea of the DPP?
Yeah, I think what is interesting about DPP is that it's really, for me, the last bit of a full new regulation frame. It's the one that goes probably a bit deeper in the product level, but it's all, you're going to understand DPP if you don't talk about ESRS. No. And you don't talk about the due diligence requirements as well. So we are really in the midst of a full new regulation system, especially in Europe, but you can see very similar initiatives happening in New York and California right now. So we are really on a changing period. So I think that since I joined the company 2 years ago, we've been trying to anticipate, because we also work a lot on wholesale, meaning that we mostly work with big companies. So, and those big retailers, they're impacted way before us. So we have a drop-down effect of data request that has been nonstop for the last 2 years. So the first thing we've actually worked on is we need secure information for whatever is coming next. We need to know for sure when a question is being asked, which is about what is it made of, where is it coming from, what's the fabrics, about the trim. So we need to really increase the level of transparency because we need to be able to answer questions. So I think it all started that. And when I joined the company has just onboarded the log. So it was the beginning of a new process. And within the same year, we also started to work with Business Central. So there's been a big IT development internally into how do we build safe information for every operations we have. And I think that's the beginning of everything. Where is the data and do we have enough?
Yeah, definitely the data. Yeah. So where do you collect all of the data and how do you then use it afterwards, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the specific thing we have that I didn't see in other companies in Denmark is that we have decided to use the log not only as a development tool, but as the safe data place. I know a lot of companies push the data from the log, which is development, into either a purchasing tool, either whatever system they get behind, and this one is the truth. But we realized that then we have an issue of being sure when we rerun something or when we want to use a product, what did we agree on? Like, how do we connect that? So we really decided to use the log as the truth for the product information.
Yes.
And always have it updated. Because then with history, we can see trace what we agreed on. We can really use that as a platform. And then the data is pushed to Business Central and then to our tools, sales tool.
Yeah. So everything, so you ensure to always update the log as sort of the main place to update, and then that shoots out to all of the different other places, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say especially in fashion, we're not always very good at rerun.
No.
But we need to. But we need to remember, we need to know what we agreed on, we need to find a communication. So we decided that this tool was better in providing the full context than only Business Central data, where you will lose some of them. You will lose the communication, you will lose the timeline. So we said, okay, we need to invest in one place, being the product place.
Yeah. And why do you think the communication is so important to stay with? Talking a bit about the supplier collaboration, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of things that we end up agreeing on, and we forget why.
Yeah.
If you go back to fabrics or trims, was it because we didn't have enough volume? Was it because it was not available? Was it because the first version didn't pass test? We all know how human-driven the development process of fabric is, of a garment is. We need to have access to the history to be able to justify the choices we made. And we develop too many new styles a year to remember everything or to rely on people remembering something. So having a place where we can store that is super precious.
Yeah. Okay, and so if we think more along the lines of the specific DPP, can you describe a process that you started? You know, not only the IT structure, but also the process in your company. You know, where did you start in your company thinking about legislation and especially DPP?
Yeah, I think, like you mentioned before, right now the performance requirements, we have a general idea, but we're definitely missing the standards. So we've also decided to keep on doing the good stuff we're doing, which is highly focused on chemicals, because we sell in more than 50 countries, so and to big retailers, so we are scrutinized, I would say. But a lot of the new performance that will be driven around durability, longevity, we still don't know what are going to be the criteria. So we have decided to not prioritize that right away. We do some performance testing, but based on risky products. I would say coated fabrics, for instance, or very tricky sequins and stuff. So we decided to focus on the information because we all know that building information is granular. You need to secure a base before you move to the next one. You cannot hope to get all the information at one time because it's also an internal training and a change that you have to proceed with your suppliers. How mature are they on the topic and how much can they onboard on new requirements? If I give another example, I know that we've been asking for social audits for years, but I made it mandatory 2 years ago. And it was a bit of a stretch, but no, it's okay because they all know it is. So it's not a topic. We've moved on to not being a topic anymore.
Yeah.
The same happened with certification. It was a good to have. It became, it's going to be mandatory. No, it is mandatory. So you need all this scaling to get to the point where you can trace things and where people make it a given.
Yeah.
It's not something to keep on challenging because we all have our times, we all have challenges, we all have budget issues. So you cannot fight all the fights. You need to win them one by one. So having proper data, and I know it's a topic we talked in different forums earlier, but what I appreciate in the tool you have is that we don't only focus on the fabric, which is definitely a thing you have in fashion, that we focus so much on fabric that we tend to forget all the other elements that you have in the garments. And they are very important, especially in terms of chemical safety. Usually the issue is there, not so much the fabric anymore.
No.
So we try to build a real library of products with all the elements that really are in our products. So I come from the toy industry. So for me, it was a given.
Yeah.
Like, how can you not know exactly what everything is made of?
Mm-hmm.
And it goes with the fact that our suppliers don't know as well.
Yeah.
Because it's not the priority product. The priority product is the composition of the fabric, because that's what's mandatory in terms of labeling. We don't have to label drinks, which seems insane to me, but that's another topic. But just pushing that, starting with a question mark. What is inside of that? Oh, it's metal. But it doesn't tell me anything. And it took some time to train them, to have some chemical testing to see, okay, where do we have risk? Which supplier is risky or is not mature enough? And what we've actually been doing is that for everything that is this small bits, we've been moving progressively to having one supplier.
Yeah.
Almost for all, because they're big enough to know the rules. They're big enough to have data. They're big enough to support us in developing. So we've been constantly changing our supply chain based on the first questions we ask.
Yeah.
So asking questions, if you don't have the right answer, then probably either you give them time, or you will need to change products.
Yeah. So it's about also giving them time, of course, to change the way that you might have done it prior to this, right?
But I do think indeed in textile, we all know that we will not be able to keep on doing like we call local sourcing.
No. Yeah.
That cannot keep on happening.
That's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay, we'll find a button on the market.
Yeah.
It's not happening anymore.
No, supplied by supplier. That one is gone.
But again, it goes not only with this DPP, it goes with the SRS. We need to be traceable. And because with diligence, we need to know what's happening in our chain of value.
Yeah.
So all this parallel regulation is actually forcing us to move to certified products.
Yeah, for sure.
All the parts of it. Because you cannot expect to know based on surveys and visits. We all need a system, and I don't know about the people attending this one, but most of us are too small to actually follow through all the system.
Yeah.
Or too variable in our sourcing request to be able to have only one or two lines, which you would find furniture, for instance. I know when I was working toys, we were very much stable on the materials.
Yeah.
We were changing a lot of the design of the paints to adjust to the collections, but the core material, we were not changing them that much. Yeah. So then you can actually build super traceable and direct contact. In textile, we change fabrics all the time.
Yeah. But have you changed that process, in terms of looking at this whole changing? One thing is looking at, the suppliers and updating them in terms of your requirements. But have you also had a look at the beginning stages in terms of design? Also, of course, thinking circularity, but in general, just thinking about, do we change too much? Are we doing new fabrics all the time? Have you had a look at that as well?
It's harder with materials. So we try to really take it to the root and then move up. So we're not done. There's still a lot of projects ongoing, but we definitely started with material because also from a carbon impact point of view, waste water, that's where you start to impact. So the first thing we did was to create some guidelines and to train the team and to train our suppliers on the guidelines. So that's the first project I took over on 2022. We based on textile exchange preferred material because we wanted it to be based on an external point of view, not us deciding what is good or bad, but someone else making a recommendation and us integrating that in our process and into what we do. So that was the first work, setting a goal. So saying, okay, this is what is the best. So we should There's no in between. We should aim for 100. And like I tell to my team, if we end up at 95, I will sleep at night. But it doesn't mean we don't try to aim.
No.
So that was the first part. And so we started focusing on fabrics because that's where we could find data. We could find information from third party. We could find more traceability certificates. We could find standards. So we could build it on a more easy way. So that was the first thing. And that unveiled so many things. And then last year, we did a very extensive chemical test. So we tested more than 100 products in our collection. That was, as you can imagine, a budget fight to get it done, but so much work because we unveiled recurring issues.
Yeah.
We did it on over two collections based on risk assessment, but that's when we realized that, but this supplier that you keep on referring to, so this is the one making trims for so many in the same area, they keep on failing on the same place.
Yeah.
So it's not just bad luck, it's a system issue. So either they change the way or we're going to have to move out.
Yeah.
So it really unveiled all this risk that help us prioritize what changes we should have internally.
Yeah.
There's definitely, I would say, a bigger topic that is around our processes. So we work a lot on processes because you cannot have data if you don't have a process to get data. How we develop collection, how do we start them by knowing what we aim for? And also, I would say, how do we try to be more recurring in some key products?
Yeah.
So, for instance, it's definitely a topic we haven't had today. Maybe we don't need to change the name base every collection.
No.
Like it's a name base. Can we just make it stable? So we've been definitely reworking a bit of that. And also, I would say definitely the focus I'm really working on right now is trims.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find great guidelines on trims. So we decided we're going to have to build it ourselves because we cannot find it.
No.
But moving to more mature suppliers actually made a big difference and not on the price. It's actually in the end less pricey because we are more secure.
Yeah, okay. Because there is actually a question in the Q&A about prices, because all of these different requirements that you've set out to your suppliers, has it had any effect on the prices? I'm assuming it's probably the style price, the product price that we're talking about here. Has it had any effect?
Definitely, we're not a low-cost brand.
No.
Yeah, so we're not a low-cost brand. So I definitely think if you are more on the low-cost end, it's going to be tricky.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact. It's going to be very tricky.
Yeah.
When you are like us, like mid-entry luxury, where we try to position ourselves, I don't think the impact is very important. First of all, because a lot of these preferred material are actually available.
Yeah.
If I take our core DNA products like our sequence dresses, it's been more than 2 years that I have no issue sourcing recycled polyester base, no issue recycled polyester, recycled sequence. Like it's not been a topic. It's a no-brainer. We find it all the time. Yeah. Usually with a minimum of 95% recycled content. So it's really a no-brainer. I would say for jeans as well. For denim, I don't think it's a topic anymore. The market is there. There's a lot of options. We've been also moving a lot of things back to Turkey. Yeah. Because then we have more, it's easier process of traceability because it's directly the crops, you have the full chain with a 100 kilometer radius. There's still a few products where it's complicated. Yeah. And lately it's been mostly complicated on getting the minimum to get the TC at a cheap price.
Oh, yeah.
When we get volume enough, our suppliers usually absorb the cost.
Yeah, okay.
It's when we have small batches, then of course they need to make us pay for the documentation. Yeah. And then the cost per unit can become a bit too much. Yeah. But again, depending on how much you buy, but I think it's never been, it would be between $1 or $2 per garment.
Per garment, yeah.
Which again, depending on your price point, is something you can absorb or you cannot absorb.
Yeah.
But it also, I would say, has been very useful, especially with us working with US-based retailers, where they're very demanding, and especially when it comes from China. So there's a lot of specific requirements that we would not have been able to comply with. No. If we were not doing that. No. And it's about animal-based products, of course. It's about cotton origin. So having this implemented has been helping us securing, I cannot say it's been earning us budget, I don't know. but definitely securing relationship with some of the big retailers because they don't want to lose time on taking the risk.
No. I mean, getting into the US market requires all of these documentations. So it is a given that you need it to enter a new market, which must mean a budget-wise an increase.
And also we do sell nicer in the US because we also need to absorb the extra cost. So the market is also more capable of absorbing a bit of extra.
Yeah.
And I think, again, working with bigger retailers, working with Zalando, there's a few, Groninger in Netherlands, they're definitely super pushing on so many topics. So normally from 2025, they don't accept the name that is not certified. So they have this every year guideline, and they're the ones more advanced compared to everyone. So having these key partners that help us gain markets has also been very useful for me.
Yeah,
because, it's not just me saying it.
No, it pushes the agenda.
Speculation and retailers.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was at the board meeting, and that's the first thing I tell them, like, Groninger, we are fully in the preferred area if we do that or that.
Yeah. That's really interesting as well. That I think that somehow that does become a difficulty in many companies, that using a lot of time and resources and money on documentation and of course man hours to sit and do all of this, and do we actually need to do it already? Do we need to do it now, or maybe we should just do it a bit later? But actually knowing the fact that it is something that gives you the entry to retailers to budget-wise, meet your budget, etc. That it is actually worth putting into.
Yeah, I don't think right now any major retailer would accept a brand that doesn't have a status system.
No.
They ask too much all the time. You need to be extremely fast in reacting. You need to be extremely fast in providing proof.
Yeah.
We cannot keep ourselves there if we were aiming for 100%.
No. And of course, as you started off by saying, that's actually got at the moment, at least, it's got nothing to do with the DPP. It's actually the reporting requirements from the larger retailers right now.
We have not seen half of it because the first companies are currently working on it.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning just before the DPP system, just for ESRS, there's also a mandatory requirement to publish data on a database that does not exist yet.
Yeah.
So all the big corporations, they are 4 months in the year of data collection, and they still don't know where they're going to have to send it to.
No.
So we shouldn't wait too much on the system. You need to build your own.
Yeah.
Because whatever system comes in the end, if you have a good Excel data export, you will find a way. But you just need to build the system yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oof, yeah. So this actually does maybe touch upon a bit what we've talked about, but I'm curious to see how have you succeeded in actually getting your team is one thing, but management and board, etc. You touched upon it a bit, but exceeding and actually putting away effort and time and money on this whole subject of getting ready for the DPP. How have you managed to do that other than scaring them?
I always think that a big part of our job is to show that we are risk managers. Yeah. And I do believe that we need to be efficient to remove any value-driven or ethical language. Yeah. Because people tend to think that sustainability people are not realists, that we are dreamers. Yeah. And that we are necessary, but sometimes a necessary pain. Yeah. So I've always made sure that I remove any ethical element of my language and make it be that we are the mid to long-term risk assessor of the company, because we are the only ones that are broad enough to assess what's coming to us. And sometimes reminding COVID is a good way, because I think there suddenly was a realization that, we didn't plan that. We didn't have a project for that. Even if it was, of course, extremely hard to predict as such. But so the first thing I've been doing is providing an overview of what's coming. Yeah. So regulation is definitely a good motivator, but what's coming also in terms of business. Yeah. Because if if you can use what your core buyers are saying, even if they don't apply it right, but you know it's coming, then of course it increases the need to take it for serious. Like it has to. We cannot postpone it forever. We have to do a bit of the work of a marketing director, like has to think what's coming, what's happening right now, what is out there, what are the demands, what is the PR risk. So kind of collecting the risk element to make it a case. Like we are actually working to secure the company. I also think that the biggest opportunity I've had is that I'm also managing the sourcing and production team. So then sustainability just became a part of their job. So they don't have to fight between what someone is telling them and what someone else is telling them. Is that we made sure to incorporate it in how we price and how we see our products. We've still been able to maintain very good margin. So then it's not an internal fight, it's a common fight. And the question keeps on coming, don't worry, we're still challenged on a weekly basis, but then it all goes like I said to very recently to my board, like, I could probably get cheaper product if I don't have animal welfare secured. Do you want the PR risk? I'm just really asking. Do you want PR risk of having a potential product that is from an animal that was slaughtered? Like I'm really asking. Do you prefer that or the risk? Then it's a decision that's been made. And same for some unsafe. I've been always very pushy on PVC. But I absolutely refuse to work on PVC. And if the topic, it was an easy one on this company. Not always, but on this company it was an easy win. But then, like, I have all the documentation ready if you want to challenge this one. So again, you want to take the risk.
Exactly. Cool. And talking into these challenges then, because I mean, you know, the board, getting the board on board and everything, but have you found any other challenges, any other things that you've touched upon which you think that is a tough one?
I think right now we still have two challenges. The most direct one is definitely supplier capacity. We also evolved. We've changed, we've grown, so we've also had to change some suppliers. There were definitely some suppliers that I could see were never going to make it. So we had to progressively offboard them. We had the case with two suppliers, one in Europe, one in China, where the more engaged we came together, like I can see it's just not happening. And in fact, the two of them were agents. So on top of the lack of maturity, you also had the lack of direct impact.
On the factory.
So how much did they actually change the facility to the point where we needed them to grow? So that was also cannot be done in a season. So it's been a progressive conversation, and we are offboarding them progressively, the two of them, decreasing the number of products we give them every season, and onboarding new, more mature companies we work with. Definitely in the supplier assessment, we've been adding a lot of criteria. I would say, especially on the environmental side, because social was already a mandatory feature. But okay, gathering some data, gathering some ISO standard certification for the biggest one. And what we're working on this year is that we are progressively asking our biggest supplier to get some environmental audits. So as a start, we give them the choice of the one. So we made a list of whatever of this one, take one. Choose one. And what we even decided is that for our core suppliers, for the first year, we will pay for it. We'll not pay for the next one. We'll pay for the first year because we want to support you. And we know it's an effort. You've never done it. It takes time. It takes structure. You don't have it yet. So we're going to pay for the first time, give you time to prepare. Next year, you will be ready. It's just going to be an update. So, but we need to be supportive of that because I can see right now that we are a little bit ahead in terms of demands. So we need to give them time and options. Also why we became AMFORI members, because we wanted them to have the BP environmental audit training. And then we can offer that. So being a member helps us offer the training courses they need and give them time to do that. So we need time. And I would say the second thing, but it's more fashion related, is that we're still struggling to identify how do we want to measure durability.
Yeah, durability. Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
big topic, and we are all desperate to see the standard.
Yeah,
Because I'm still at doubt of that, because you have emotional durability, you have, of course, physical durability. Will it be assessed on the core finishing elements of a product?
Yeah.
Will it be assessed on the fabric? Will there be some, what is going to be the criteria that we call something durable? I think we're all very much waiting on that to come. And the fact that we are initially a tailoring, fur and luxury. So the culture of doing good is definitely rooted in us.
Yeah.
So now it's more, what is the next step we need to invest in?
Yeah.
And because we are fashion, it means we change a lot of base.
Yeah.
That's why, for instance, we chose not to go for cradle to cradle, which could have been a very nice training part, but we can't.
No.
We currently cannot do that.
No.
I would love to. I do think a lot of companies, probably in kids wear, could get there, because you change design, you change the print, but you will have the same base you work on for a long time. I do think in homeware you could do that, and this will give you a lot of data points and internal training. But I don't think in core fashion, like we are, it's not gonna happen. So we decided to go with B Corp.
Yeah.
So we're currently working on being B Corp again, to build the internal structure.
Yeah.
To be ready. And what I see right now is that, except for circularity, because B Corp is not there on circularity, it will come the next version, I think.
Yeah.
But we are actually working to have all the base that is ESRS compliant, that is DPP compliant, that is it's the same idea.
Yeah.
Just different way of saying it.
Exactly.
But the structure we're bringing to ourselves is helping so much for being ready.
Being ready for all of the different legislation, not only the one of them or two of them or anything, right? Yeah.
Because they all say the same thing. They just are not always very, regulations are not always very mature. And
no, exactly. Yeah. It's about understanding the language.
Want it to be.
Yeah.
The latest version has been a bit shy.
Yeah.
But if you already try to enforce OECD guidelines, if you already try, it doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean you're audit proof yet. No. But just knowing that this is the principles and you need to challenge yourself to follow them, I think it's really.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Now, there are a few questions in terms of the log. So I think I will just finish off with a few questions in terms of the log. You've already said that the log is what you see as sort of the data hub. That's where you have the source of truth. So we won't go into that more. But can you talk a bit about the IT structure, the tech stack? So one thing is you have the log. You have had Business Central as well as your ERP. Have you already now had talks and collaboration with other partners, or thinking about that in terms of what they we have environmental impact platforms and so on? Where are you in the process of sort of making this digital process?
I think what we've done is that we've always tried to limit ourselves to a platform that brings a lot.
Yeah.
So we need something that is complete enough, because we're not big enough to have complex architecture and a lot of money in all systems. So right now we've been working on secure project data in the log, but we've also met with potential future providers for external solutions, QR code and all that. So we actually started meeting with them 2 years ago. The first one being based in the USA, because they were a bit more advanced on the topic. And all the meetings we've had, we felt like they just provide a website.
Yeah.
So if it's not mandatory, I will not go there now, because maybe in the end the solution is not going to be approved.
Yeah.
So I don't want to invest right now. So the latest one we've been talking with in terms of the display part is actually our label partner.
Yeah.
And care labels, and because we are thinking, well, they have all the data as well.
Yeah.
Because we push all the data from the log to them.
Exactly.
So they already have all the products. So it's just about adding fields that in the future will come and complement on supplier data allocation. So all the things we know will need to be there at some point.
Yeah.
Then we just want to secure that the people that have our data will just add some data on top of it, instead of creating a parallel system. So right now we're all a bit waiting. I'm definitely not going to do anything before the standards are published.
No.
So I'm going to wait there, but I already identify some partners that could be the one, because again, they can just turn a data set into a visual, which is what we're missing right now.
Yeah.
And we already, I think, with Business Central and the log, we already have the structure of long time servers like that will keep the data being there and unique numbers, unique SKUs that will keep on. So why would I invest in another database, in another system?
Yeah.
So I would prefer spending my time right now in securing, adding layers of data, going deeper into traceability, going deeper into all this building of history, so that when we know which one is going to be applicable, then we can start onboarding it.
Yeah, exactly.
And bringing the service.
Yeah. And I could maybe also, because there are a few questions on how the log will be working on further development towards helping with the DPP. Now we are definitely very on top of the topic, and we are looking into which sort of data points do we need to have to assist people like Alexandra and her company and our other customers. So it's about figuring out which data points do we need. We also have a roadmap which states in terms of supply chain mapping possibility, because we have the item list. So we sort of have the ground information of what does this product actually include, what is in the product. As Alexandra said, it's not only about the fabric, but it's also about all of the other components that are there and where do they actually come from and what do they have. So it's about figuring out where our platform can assist with the supply chain, helping the supply chain management, chemical testing, ensuring that that documentation has a place to live and is, of course, connected with your products. That is something we can already assist with. And then the final thing that we're looking into is this whole environmental impact calculation. How do you calculate a product's environmental impact? Now we are probably not going to do that solution. We are not looking into doing the calculation, but we are very much looking into the fact that we need to be a platform that has the data to be able to do those things. So we are talking with a lot of different platforms that can do it, because we of course need to ensure that we have a platform that has all of those data points. So that is something we are very, very focused on. We are not at the moment looking into being able to create the QR code. But I'm not going to say never, ever. But we are not looking into being the ones that will create the code or whatever solution we'll come up with. And that maybe answers the next question as well. Then somebody wrote, are you aware of that BC released a new sustainability module next month? And I am actually aware of that in terms of reporting. So yes, I don't know if Alexandra is.
We haven't had presentation yet, but we know
I know that they are releasing something in terms of helping and assisting their customers in reporting, CSRD reporting, and getting ready for that and collecting all of the data from the log and BC and everything, and then being able to create these reporting needs. They are doing that, yeah, which is quite good. Quite good. Yeah, so do we have any more?
The first question in the beginning, there was more about the applicability of.
Yes. So I scrolled up there. Will the compliance requirements only apply to European companies or all companies selling in EU?
Well, I don't remember about DPP because it's just draft right now. But I know for ESRS, there's indeed a timeline for companies outside of EU, but it's the late one.
Yeah, it's later.
It's like 2028 or more.
Exactly, that they need to comply with it. And I'm assuming
DPP will be the same.
Right, that I think the DPP will follow that as well. So for now, in the beginning, it will be for European companies, and then later on, and likely, I think within 2030, I mean, that is the sort of the timeline and the deadline, if you so to speak. So likely within that, but of course, we don't specifically know yet. And are the requirements already set for some or all verticals? I'm not sure I understand that one. How about you, Alexandra? Do you know who is actually developing the DPP technology? And will there be one standard? The DPP technology, I don't know specifically, other than it is within the EU that it's being developed, that they will develop.
Verticals, I guess it might be about specifics.
Yeah.
For all the products. I don't think that's what we're not there. Right now we have a draft.
Yeah.
So we have a list of potential topics.
Exactly.
Like the performance requirements, you have a list, but it's not defined.
No.
Which, like we said before, is a bit the blocking point right now. So it's good to inform the board level that it's coming, but it's okay, I think, as well to not rush.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because and as you said, I think
be a new ISO standard.
Exactly.
Like it is going to be a new standard that we don't know.
Agreed. I think what you've said so many times is that that what we just need to get ready for is having the information. You know, we need to be data strong. We need to, you know, get rid of the supplied by supplier or local supplier or whatever, and we need to know where do our things come from. That is maybe the start, and then we need to wait until further information so that we can specifically, because right now it's still on all industries, so we need to know specifically for textiles, and it isn't even set yet if it's per specific product or it might also be per specific group. So we're not there yet where we can say that it is 100% sure that it will cover all of these different things. We just know that it is within that parameter that it will cover. So yeah, so it's about getting ready in terms of information, right? But the DPP technology in itself, EU will come with a thing. I think from the many people I've spoken to about it is that it's not going to be that place where it's going to be, how do you say, consumer friendly, which is why so many are looking into these different types of other solutions, which are more consumer friendly maybe. They are platform wise nicer to look at, and there are a lot of solutions out there that are doing it. I think one of the things that I have come to realize, I don't know if you agree, Alexandra, but one of the things I've come to realize is that the data foundation behind the QR code is actually probably the most important thing right now. Yeah. So ensuring that you have all of the information first, and then wait until the action.
When we did the first meetings with some providers, so it was 2 years ago, and it was more they all showed us very cool website, but in the end, like, we cannot start anything if you don't have anything to show. So it's just the look and feel of the data set. If there's no data, they cannot do anything. So I think there's absolutely no rush in trying to find a provider right now. It's really not rush.
It's about collecting the information. And I think one of the things that we as a platform focus a lot on right now is ensuring that it isn't collected in a way that really pushes, the suppliers and of course also the people working in all of the brands, that it isn't a workload, that we help the workload, because it is such a massive responsibility to have all of this or collect all of this information. So if we can in any ways as a platform help that is definitely a large goal of ours, both for the brands but also for the suppliers, because they have access. So I think that's also a really important thing, that it is a lot of information, so we need to really collaborate in figuring out how to do it in the best way. All right, I don't think there are any more questions for today. So that's actually it, 3 minutes over. So sorry for that, Alexandra, but thank you so much. It was so interesting. Thank you for joining me today. And if I would like to just, as a last thing, just share my screen again, because we do have a webinar next week. Is it there? Yes, we do have a webinar next week, which I would like to just do a bit of promo on, because we have a webinar where it's Pernille who will do a product-specific one. So she will dive into our platform and show you how to get your bill of material, your item list in DeLog reporting requirements ready. So it's about diving into what we've been speaking about today, and then having a look at what you can do in your bill of materials to ensure that you have all of the data. And there will also be a little sneak peek of a report that we've been working on, item custom report, which we've been working on. which will be very interesting in terms of, you know, delivering all of this data, getting the data out of our platform and delivering it further on. So I hope a lot of you will join next Thursday at this webinar as well. Thank you so much, Alexandra. It's been a pleasure. And thank you everyone for joining today. Have a good Wednesday.
Thank you, bye.
Bye.